It was just after 6 in the morning when I heard the metallic click. From the kitchen window, coffee still steaming in my hand, I spotted Karen Fitzgerald, our ever-diligent HOA president, standing at my mailbox. She wasn't delivering flyers, she was rifling through my mail like it was a weekly habit. With practiced fingers, she lifted one envelope, held it up to the rising sun, and gave a small, satisfied smile. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I had been watching her for weeks. She also didn't know the badge tucked away in my drawer had the power to end her life as she knew it. My name is David Harper. I moved to Pine Valley Estates 6 months ago after accepting a remote position with the IRS, not accounting, not paperwork. I work in the Criminal Investigations Division, the part of the agency that tracks down tax fraud, identity theft, and financial crimes that most people never even realize exist. I chose this neighborhood for its quiet, orderly appearance, a place to focus on my cases in peace. Instead, I met Karen. She was at my door before I'd even finished unpacking, clipboard in hand, reciting HOA rules like a prosecutor reading charges. My lawn was half an inch too tall. My mailbox wasn't quite the right shade of beige. And apparently there was a correct way to angle a car in one's own driveway. I ignored most of it. Annoying, yes, but harmless, until she asked what I did for a living. The tone was friendly, but her eyes were sharp. I gave her a vague answer, something about finance. But she pressed, did I work from home? Did I get a lot of important mail? Did I ever travel? 3 weeks later, strange mail started showing up. Credit card offers for people I'd never heard of, loan pre-approvals. Then a refund check from the IRS, $8,000, made out to someone named Robert Chung, same address. Definitely not me. That's what I knew. This wasn't nosy neighbor behavior. This was fraud. And she had picked the wrong mailbox. Asterisk, the moment I held that IRS refund check in my hands, I knew this was more than a simple mix-up. Years of experience had sharpened my instincts. This was orchestrated. Someone was using my address for fraud? Someone confident. Someone close. I didn't confront Karen. Not yet. Instead, I installed a discreet security camera, cleverly hidden behind a potted plant. One Karen herself had insisted I place there to comply with HOA aesthetic standards. The irony made it even more satisfying, and then I waited. It didn't take long. Every morning at precisely 6:15 a.m., Karen would appear, dog leash in one hand and her phone in the other. Her tiny designer dog barely touched the ground as she stopped at my mailbox, casually lifting the lid. Sometimes she just took photos. Other times, she pulled out envelopes and walked off with them like they belonged to her. On 2 occasions, she even paused to write something in a small black notebook she carried like a diary of secrets. I documented it all. Then I pulled IRS records. Using my credentials, I ran a search, completely justified given the suspicious check and clear signs of mail theft. What I found chilled me. 17 tax returns had been filed in the past year using my address. All with different names, all claiming huge refunds, all citing suspicious losses or donations. The total, over $200,000 in attempted fraud. The IP addresses used to file the returns were scattered: coffee shops, libraries, burner hotspots. But one pattern stood out. Every return listed my mailbox as the delivery point. This wasn't amateur hour. Someone was running a professional scheme, and my home had been chosen as the drop zone. I could have exposed her right then, marched across the street, badge in hand. But I've learned that patience is more powerful than confrontation. Let her think she was still in control. Let her feel untouchable. Instead, I filed a formal fraud report and initiated a federal investigation. The trap was set. And the walls were closing in. Asterisk, within days of my report, the neighborhood began to shift. Quietly, methodically, a federal investigation was underway. A team of agents arrived in Pine Valley Estates posing as field auditors conducting a routine community compliance survey. Friendly, polite, clipboard carrying, but make no mistake, these weren't bureaucrats. They were financial crime specialists and cyber investigators in disguise. Their approach was strategic. They started at the far end of the neighborhood. working their way slowly toward Karen's house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Every knock on a door was intentional. Every conversation had a purpose. Karen noticed almost immediately. Her behavior changed overnight. The daily dog walk stopped. The morning mailbox visits ceased entirely. She became a ghost behind her perfectly cleaned windows, peering through blinds as the surveyors moved closer, clipboard by clipboard. The same woman who once walked the streets like a queen now moved like prey sensing a predator nearby. At the next HOA meeting, Karen's command had vanished. She stumbled through the agenda, forgot names, and nervously tapped her pen against her clipboard, once her favorite weapon. Her voice trembled. Her usual smirk was gone. Even her loyal vice president glanced at her with concern as she skipped agenda points and contradicted herself in the meeting minutes. I watched it all with quiet satisfaction. No confrontation, no need. The pressure was doing my work for me. Then came the mail. Certified envelopes began arriving at Karen's doorstep. Official correspondence that required signatures. Legal notices. Federal letterheads. Her husband, Gerald, typically invisible, started having loud conversations with her in the driveway, waving papers in frustration. Something had cracked, even. The other HOA board members began avoiding her. Weekly coffee meetings were suddenly rescheduled. Karen had become toxic, and she knew it. She had ruled this neighborhood for years, but now? She was a queen without a kingdom, surrounded by agents and secrets she couldn't control. It happened on a Thursday. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing unrelated case files when I heard it, the low hum of engines outside. I glanced through the blinds just in time to see 3 black SUVs pulling up quietly in front of Karen Fitzgerald's house. No sirens, no drama, just quiet purpose. The doors opened, and out stepped a team of federal agents, suits, briefcases, and the unmistakable aura of authority. Agent Sullivan led the group, calm as always. Warrant in hand, I stood up slowly, coffee forgotten on the desk, heart steady. This was it. Karen opened the door herself. From across the street I saw her face twist in confusion, then horror. She started talking fast, gesturing with both hands. I couldn't hear her words, but I didn't need to. I'd seen this before. The moment people realize their world is no longer theirs, the agents entered without resistance. For the next 2 hours, Pine Valley held its breath. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. The once silent cul-de-sac suddenly became the most watched strip of pavement in town. When the agents finally emerged, they were carrying boxes labeled, taped, filled with computers, files, and evidence, and then came the moment I hadn't expected. Karen stepped outside behind them, pale, trembling, completely broken. Her eyes scanned the street until they landed on me. Agent Sullivan turned to her, said something quietly, and pointed in my direction. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Together, they began walking across the street, Karen stumbling. In disbelief, Agent Sullivan steady beside her. I opened the door before they reached it. And there I stood, IRS badge clipped to my belt, plain as day. Karen stopped cold. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her legs gave a slight buckle, and Agent Sullivan reached out to steady her. She didn't need an explanation. She understood everything in that moment. I wasn't just the quiet man next door. I was the one she never should have crossed. My quiet home office had transformed into a command center. Laptops open, evidence bags stacked neatly, agents scanning through files, screenshots, transaction logs. In the center of it all sat Karen Fitzgerald, shoulders hunched, hands trembling. The sharp authority she'd wielded like a sword now completely gone. Agent Sullivan stood calmly at the front of the room and began laying out the evidence. First came the financial records. Dozens of bank deposits matched fraudulent refunds within days of disbursement. The amounts varied, but the pattern was undeniable. Shell accounts, prepaid debit cards, small transfers, all orchestrated to avoid detection. But not clever enough. Then came the laptop. Karen's personal computer was a goldmine. It contained templates for forged W-2s, phony 1099s, and even pre-filled tax software files, half-completed returns with fake numbers, just waiting to be finalized. One document stood out among the rest. A spreadsheet titled PV_targets.xlsx. PV for Pine Valley. It listed addresses, resident profiles, risk levels. My address was highlighted in yellow. Next to it, active IRS refund pending. High value. Karen sat in stunned silence as the agents displayed the documents, but there was more. 3 other residents, it turned out, had also installed cameras after noticing mail mysteriously disappearing. Their footage matched mine, Karen stopping at their boxes, snapping photos, occasionally slipping envelopes into her coat. Text messages from her phone were damning, group chats with her co-conspirators discussing check drop-offs, mailing schedules, split percentages. Her so-called book club was coordinating tax fraud in plain sight.